In this episode of Motive Garage presented by Sparesbox, we need to get all of those parts onto our RB32 engine and get it into our R32 GT-R. So if you watched our channel in 2023, you'll know this man, Rob Arbolino from Cranked Motorsport, who are also one of the presenting sponsors for the PRP GT-R Festival this year. Now, because of him, we went fast in Jet 200. We did a 1 minute 29 with Rob as the crew chief putting the car together. He was at the track when we ran 860 in our R32 GT-R, which is quicker than we ever thought we'd go. So this man is responsible for us going as fast as we've ever gone in 2023. Same again for 24, right?
Yeah, always. You can't go backwards, can you?
Can't go backwards. So obviously we've now got this engine refreshed, the head got cleaned, serviced, fresh bearings in it, all inspected, back together, billet sump. Now it's the same combo in terms of the main parts, but obviously you know, and you can tell our viewers that there's still going to be a lot of little things that we're going to have to work out, right?
Yeah, well, the biggest thing to me on this engine is having a dry sump set up on it. The PRP dry sump made it a lot simpler, a lot neater than what it used to be, having to make all those hoses, even though we did on Jet 200. To me, having a dry sump set up on the RB is just key, really. We've got the V2 inlet manifolds, there's different hoses, there's different fittings, we've got some plumbing to change around. Reality of it's pretty much staying the same as it was when it went 860.
Try and make it more reliable at 860, right?
Yeah, I want to go faster, but yeah.
So in terms of timeline, where we're at right now is we basically have all of the main parts. It's just going to be little things that are going to hold us up. So the plan is for today is Rob and I are going to try and get all of the accessories onto the engine so that it's ready to go in the car. I'm sure a couple of things will hold us up that we need to get sorted before it goes in. We'll prepare our freshly painted engine bay with the brake master cylinder, the clutch master cylinder and all that sort of stuff. So we've got all that to do before it goes in. We've got a new PPG billet sequential to go in. So there's a lot of little things we've got to do before the engine goes in. Right now, we've only got a few days left in February. Our plan is to have this engine in the car with the box, the clutch, the shaft, so like the mechanical side of the car to be together this week. I go to the US end of next week, so we've got to get Rowan in to measure up all the wiring. The car's going to go to CID to get the last bit of fab work. And then I get back from America on the 28th of March, and then we have until the 11th of April to have the car running ready for Coodamunk. Laid out on the bench here is the bits that need to go onto the engine before they go into the car. We have the Hypertune V2 inlet manifold. We went to this because it's neater than the V1, doesn't use the factory base. Notice that this comes already port matched to the gasket, which is where our head is ported to. So we don't have to do any work for that to go onto the head. The guys at PRP anodized it grey. We've got the silicon tube that goes under the V2 inlet to join all the water lines together to give you a radiator neck. We have some new injector adapters for our ID2600s, they're in red to get the colour matched correctly. We have our Bosch drive-by-wire 82mm throttle body, Hypertune fuel rail that's been anodized red. I would have used the PRP fuel rail, but the V2 inlet manifold has its own specific fuel rail. Produced factory powder-coated all of our brackets, such as for the fuel tank, the pulleys, the brackets, as well as the fuel tank itself, the intake, so that's all been done. We have our G45 1500. The compressor cover has been anodized in grey. We've had the rear housing ceramic coated for holding heat a lot better. And Alex at High Sport Industries gave the turbo a check over and checked the balance and everything. He said the thing's all good, ready to go. We have our 6-boost twin scroll manifold here with a 60mm gate adapter, also been completely ceramic coated that needs to go back in the car. We have a brand new Turbo Smart 60mm external wastegate. Why did we get a new one? Well, that's a really easy question to answer. All this fresh, brand new stuff going on the engine, we didn't want to put a 5-year-old wastegate on, so we got a nice fresh one so it's nice and pretty on the car. We have the Turbo Smart oil pressure regulator for the turbocharger that also has a filter built in. So especially with the dry sump and the amount of pressure we're going to run, this will adjust the pressure to the turbo. It'll regulate it as its job says. We have a solid engine mount from PRP for the passenger side. Why is that? Well, with 1150 horsepower and hard launches with all-wheel drive, you destroy any engine mount. No matter who makes it, a urethane engine mount or rubber engine mount will get destroyed, so we have to do that. So a lot of cool bits to go onto the engine. Let's do it. The old gate and the new gate are pretty much exactly the same. See? This one, obviously, with a lot of heat and a lot of work and a few years of use, it just fades. There's nothing we can really do about it, to be honest. If you want anodized, that's what's going to happen. So we just got a fresh one. I'm just swapping all the fittings over from this one to this one. It's going to be identical in its setup. So due to a tight deadline and, well, GT-R life, there is a few things that have happened to this car in the last 48 hours that we haven't been able to film. Rob came back the next day to, I guess, catch up on our schedule. He got the compressor cover on, he did the turbo water and oil lines, got the dump pipe on, because they all need to be on before the car goes to Croydon. I've got to get the radiator in the car so we can check all the clearance for that, because the car's going to go to CID tomorrow. Now, the other thing that's important to be done is we've got to do wiring. So Rowan's on the way right now, so I can run him through all the wiring we need to do. He can start measuring that up to get the wiring loom made while I'm in the US as well. So it's all about managing who does what while we're away, so that when we get back, we can get straight back into it. So for those that didn't watch the build of Jet 200, this is Rowan, and he did all of the wiring on Jet 200 from scratch. How different, I guess, is this build going to be compared to Jet 200?
Well, really in comparison, it is going to be a little bit more technical, being that we are now going to more of a street setup, as opposed to Jet 14 being just there to do one thing, and let's go quick. This one now we're changing over to where we're going to start putting in provisions for all the lighting, try and get all the little creature comforts to work, just, you know, all the fancy stuff you really want from it. And yeah, it's just more, instead of just making everything work in the engine, we're going to make the rest of the car work with it.
Now, for you doing this car, how much easier is your life made by Howtech? Obviously, the Nexus has a PDM, you've got a keypad, and we get this gigantic wiring loom, which has probably done, how much work is, I guess, made easier by having that provided and then having a keypad rather than having to make switches for everything?
Like I said last time, it's just so much easier when you have everything all in one. So much simpler, and like I said every time, when it comes to problem solving, it's one spot. You know exactly where to start and finish.
Well, just to make life sound even harder, and for the viewers watching, to give them an idea of how much extra work there is on this car, outside of your conventional starter motor, alternator, coil packs, trigger kits of an engine, this car we add electronic power steering, four-wheel drive control, we want all the ABS sensors plumbed in, plus an extra speed sensor. We've got flat shift, reverse lockout, we need reverse lights to work, so there's more work to do with the gearbox side of things. We've got a line locker, two-step you can turn it off, we've got a flapper valve, we've got multiple sensors, unlike the other car, we've got 2 lots of map sensors, 2 lots of oil pressure sensors, because we're basically going to the extreme of what you would put on any race car, but then we're going, oh, by the way, I've got some street car stuff on top.
By the way, I have to drive at night if I can.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, looking at the table, you can tell there's a lot more things that are going to go into it. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go outside and take a deep breath. And then from there, we're just pretty much going to start just going with the rope and string and tape and just start sort of templating things until you like the way it works and think that will do the job.
How much better is it going to look than the wiring loom that's on the floor that I am too embarrassed to show anyone, that has over a decade of hacking on that wiring loom, and now we get to start from ground zero. There's not one wire in that car at the moment. I don't think there's a single wire in it.
I am so happy to see that thing move on. It's what started off in that original harness as being just the original GT-R harness and being modified and advanced over and over again. 20, 30 years on now, it's time to bring it into the same timeline and get everything up and running with all fresh stuff.
Well, we should probably get into it, huh?
Let's do it.
Let's go. With the measuring for the wiring done, the car was sent to Croydon Racing Developments for some fab work, including new intercooler piping, radiator pipe, thermofans, and mounting of the dry sump tank. We called Danny from Motorsport Towing, best in the business, to get the car there safely. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we get the fab work, wiring and plumbing done ready for the first start in the latest iteration of Project Supercar Killer.